eliminated. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to RickCast, episode 156. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It's now time to get back to the grind, I guess. So let's get that chat up and running. Good evening, G Money. I'm glad you're on time too. Always good to have you on. We missed you Friday. We were doing our Hulkamania tribute. We needed you. James, good evening. Bellator, good evening. Lou, good evening. Thank you guys as the bar rats filter in. It's good to see you all. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I had a pretty decent weekend. So got to do some LTC teaching, went to church, kind of hung out on Sunday. And yeah, good time. Catholic Jedi, Mark, Becker, happy to see all of you as always. And of course, Dean Oaks sliding in at the last minute as he always does. Good to see you, buddy. I actually need to get a new one of those pens for the board because you can actually see it now, but now my pen died, so you can't read it. If it's one thing, it's another here on RickCast, but we're going to have a good time tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be more of, listen, I'm not talking about Trump and tariffs and any of that crap. If you want to watch that, there's plenty of shows that talk about Trump and his tariffs and all these other things and the Epstein list. And as you can tell, it's now finally hit like a normal July. So my sinuses have decided to punch me in the face repeatedly until I get the lesson that my sinuses hate me. So that's why if I sound congested, spoiler alert, is because I am. So it is what it is in that regard. But I'm happy that you guys are here. You guys are hanging out with me. And we are going to have some good old-fashioned fun today. And the reason why I don't want to talk about Trump and I don't want to talk about the tariffs and all these other things is because there's actual stuff that I'm interested in that I'm actually really well-versed in. And I really want to talk about that. We have some interesting things. So this thing popped up on Friday, and I didn't talk about it on Friday because I kind of forgot about it. But it's gained more traction over the weekend. It's this whites-only settlement in Arkansas. And now they're being sued or they're being investigated by the Attorney General in Arkansas. We're going to talk about that and how I believe that is the first stone to an eventual, and I'm not saying this as something that's a positive, YouTube. This is a observation, not an endorsement. I have a feeling when by 2030, there's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 ethno-white states in these United States. I have a feeling that there's going to be. Not that I'm endorsing it. I have a feeling that these things are starting to pop up, and it kind of dovetails into the Cincinnati Jazz Festival fight that we'll talk about as well. The reason we're talking about those two things separately is because I want to talk to people during the talk about the coverage of the Cincinnati Brawl. I want to talk about pre-attack indicators and how you need to be smarter about these things if you're going to attend one. I don't go to these things. I don't go to things with crowds. I haven't for a while. But if you are going to do one of these things, I'm going to talk about pre-threat indicators and things that you need to observe, and whether you should actually, carry a firearm or not, and going on with that. So we'll talk about that. And in the middle, we're going to do some gun talk. We're going to talk about SIG Sauer and the fact that I, along with the rest of the gun community, thinks that SIG Sauer may be a thing of the past within a year. So SIG Sauer won the military contract, I think in 2017. Their P320, they submitted it. It's the M17 and the M18. It's just different barrel lengths. And there's been problems around the SIG, the M17 and the M18. And an airman died over the weekend. The gun just went off and killed him. And SIG's response before this was atrocious. and it's coming back to bite them. I know we've talked about SIG here and there, but I actually want to address the SIG Sauer stuff because they're a major player in the industry. And they have really, in their greed, they've blown a lot of trust, and they've given anti-gunners a window to another vector to come after us. So I'm not very happy with them. And of course, then I'm going to talk about the Cincy the Cincy Jazz Brawl, and then we'll do some box office stuff at the end of the day. We always do some kind of entertainment talk towards the end of the show. But now I have two other things talking about. There's an incident in New York that's happening as we speak that we'll cover, and I'll talk quickly about the man in Michigan, the brave gentleman that stepped in Michigan to save lives. It's not so I can be like, oh, he's a white nationalist. I'm not a white nationalist. I'm a Catholic. I love everybody. I believe if you're a Catholic, it doesn't matter who you are. You're in the club, right? That's what Catholic is. Catholic's universal. I can hang out with anybody from Nigeria to Japan, and if we're Catholic, we don't have to worry about cultural differences. We share the one true faith. So that's the whole racist talk is just nonsense anyway. But we'll talk about the brave man in Michigan and how he stepped in to save lives. And really, he's an example that if you have the ability to and you can carry, you should carry. Just don't carry a SIG. Now, you can talk about P365s and all the other guns that they make. I wouldn't trust SIG at this point. I mean, I'm a Ruger guy, so you can take that for what it is, right? Rugers may not be the fanciest, but they don't go off unless you pull the trigger. So there is that issue. So it's fine. So do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy that you are hanging out with me. I'm actually feeling a lot better. When I'm putting the shows together, I'm like, I don't feel like it. But as soon as that camera rolls and as soon as that thing hits, I'm just so happy to be with you guys. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Because I work from home right now, so you guys are my guys I get to hang out with at night. And so we are here at RickCast, and we are going to have as they used to say in the cartoons, we're going to have a gay old time. So you're like, no, yes. So let's see. Listen, people can say Glock perfection all they want, Mark. Glocks don't go off unless you pull the trigger. It's just Glocks, Smith & Wessons, Canics, Rugers, Berettas. The Beretta people have to be pissed. The Beretta people have to be. Is that true, Pink Camo Lizard? It's got to be true. Every major city mayor is a Marxist. There's no red cities. Even Fort Worth, which is supposed to be Republican, they had gay drag shows during quote unquote Pride Month. Cities, and this is just for cities are lost as of right now, because Republicans, got rid of them a long time ago. They abandoned them a long time ago. But most may, and the crazy thing, Cincinnati, yes, Marxist mayor. I went there a couple years ago for a Catholic conference. Beautiful city, by the way. The crazy thing is, me, Mike Church, and Todd McClure were driving around that downtown area. It was after a football game, so it was a little bit different, but it is what it is. Berettas, man, the M9 Beretta. If I had a little bit more money, I'd go out and buy a Beretta just because. It would go perfectly with my Beretta 1301. Italian perfection, baby. Nothing better than it. Crazy thing is that the papal, who are the Swiss Guard, they use SIGs too. I wonder if they're going to get rid of theirs. I have to look into that. I'm always surprised when the Swiss Guard doesn't use like Beretta. I'm like, it's Italian. You guys are in Italy. Why the hell aren't you using Berettas? But anyway, it is what it is in that regard. It's sad to see that too, Catholic Jedi. I mean, even the small, like Denton, Texas. Isn't that you're near Denton? Denton is trash because of the University of North Texas. It's just what it is. So anyway, No, they're really, and that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing. And here's what fools people about cities. Here's what fools people about cities. The first thing is that any police that they do have, they only use them for the touristy areas. That's it. They only use them to defend the touristy areas. So people go and they go to the like New York City, they go to Times Square, and they're like, it's so safe here. It's like, yeah, go down to the Bronx. See how safe it is down there. But it is what it is in that regard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Let's take a look around here. Let's get to our first story of the day, which is happening as we speak. Let's get our share screen activated. And here we go. Come on. Where am I? I'm the most important part. Where am I? Hello. There I am. No, I don't want that. Get me over here. There it is. I'm the most important part. You got to be able to see me. This is happening as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even plan to talk about this. There is an active situation in New York City. There are multiple reports of an active shooter situation near the Blackstone building right here in New York. The bomb squad and counterterrorism are currently en route. Good thing that New York is a gun-free zone. It's a good thing that New York, the state of New York, is completely gun-free, because that would ensure that things like this never happen, although they do constantly. And yet people still talk about having, we need gun laws, we need this, we need that. No, you don't. Gun laws only hinder law-abiding citizens. I know it's a talking point. But it's a correct talking point. I don't want this. What is this doing? Sorry, my ADD is just it's my sinuses and ADD. They're just getting after me tonight. So yes, you have an active shooter situation taking place in New York City as we speak right now, gun-free zone. So much so that even after New York State Rifle and Pistol Association that came out, 2022, 2023, they still restrict people who can have firearms and people who can't. And I guess the idea is, let me look this up real quick. I know I should have Winnebago v. DeShaney. I think that's the case. All right, yeah, here it is. We've talked about it on this show before, and I think this is going to be the theme of tonight's show. Nobody is coming to help you. And what do I mean? DeShaney v. Winnebago. This was done in February 1989. What this means, the 14th Amendment, as some would call the Miracle Amendment, does not require the state, in this case, that would be the police, to intervene in the protecting of residents from actions of private parties that may infringe on their life, liberty, and property. Then you can look this up, DeShaney v. Winnebago. There's another case, but since I'm an RV nerd, I always remember the Winnebago one. You are not allowed, the police do not in any way, shape, or form have a duty to protect you. They don't. Now, for the good of society, if there's like an active shooter or something like that, yes, they will step in to stop that, because that is a threat to the public, right? Public. But if there are two individuals engaged in something, the state, and we saw it in Uvalde, we saw it in New York, ironically enough, when that person was on fire and the cop just walked right by him. Cops are under no, and I repeat, no obligation to protect you. They actually don't have to. And a lot of people, they get a little crossways with me when I say something like that. Oh, no, they say the protect and serve. Yeah, that's called that's a motto. That is a tested motto that makes the public feel better. Most of the time, the cops are going to show up, they're going to write a report, and they're going to move on. And is that because cops are bad people? No. It's just not their job. Now, you and I have been influenced with propaganda like 24 and every NCIS and Law and Order, Criminal Intent Special Victims Unit, and parking lot enforcement, all of them. But the fact of the matter is, you are not the state's primary concern, for lack of a better term. You're not. Lone Star. Lone Star. Yeah, they are just a cleanup crew. But the state, in conjunction with Hollywood, convinced you that they're your protectors. And especially it was a very deceptive way to emasculate men, because men have been told for decades, oh, you don't need to worry about guns or safety. The cops will protect you. And the farther men got away from having to protect themselves, like the Wild West and so forth. And I know the Wild West wasn't as wild as people say, but still there was an idea that you were responsible for you and yours on the frontier. The farther you get away from things like that, the more men have become soft. There are a lot of soft men out there who don't even take their responsibility for their own safety seriously. I mean, it's just what it is. And the fact is, people don't realize you are on your own. And that's kind of our theme tonight. You are on your own. And as applicable to the state that you live in, YouTube, as you notice, I'm saying as applicable to the state that you live in, you should get a firearm, and you should find an instructor that you trust, and you should get as much training as possible. Now, I will throw this in for myself as a USCCA instructor. This is not a flex. I'm not trying to, oh, look at me. I'm saying that if you can't find an instructor that you trust and you find enough people in your area, I could always come out and talk to you guys, and we could do some introductory stuff there. I am more than happy to travel anywhere in these United States. Not the blue areas, obviously, but any red state in these United States, to run a couple classes for you guys and get you some intro to stuff to make you feel better when you go to the range. So if you'd like, you can always hit me up, info@thearmedcatholic.com, or, send me a message on X or on Instagram, wherever you follow. And I would be more than happy to assist you, or maybe I could help you find an instructor in your area that would be pretty good. You need to find some instruction, and you need to practice, and you need to be prepared, and you need to take your safety seriously. And it's not just getting a gun, guys. I also want you to take first aid classes. Now, if you can't take a first aid class, the Red Cross does basic first aid online. They're basic first aid courses you can take online to at least begin to understand things like shock and how to do bandages and tourniquets and things like that. So you need to take these steps to be the most responsible citizen you can be. It's that simple. You must do so. So that's the whole point of tonight's show, is to talk about these things, because the police will operate under this rule. Duchesne versus Winnebago. If they don't have to do something. Now, are there good cops that will do stuff? Absolutely. We've seen it. We saw it at the Covenant incident in Tennessee, where there was that one police officer, that body cam. He went in, he grabbed his AR-15, he charged that school, and he took out the threat. But you can't count on that. You cannot count on that. Plus, I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. When the incident takes place, the incident will be over in a matter of seconds, and the police are minutes away. So you have to understand that as well. Speaking of which, let's look at our first story here, coming to us from the Post Millennial with their 5 gazillion ads on it. Thank you, Post Millennial. Armed Marine vet praised as a hero after subduing a Walmart knife attacker in Michigan. Because remember, only guns hurt people. The left will convince you that you should give up every gun on the planet because knives aren't bad. And I would actually argue, and this is going to be crazy coming from me as a gun guy, knives are potentially deadlier than guns in a lot of situations. You get shot. I know we all watch John Wick and we all watch TV, and we're all made to realize that one bullet from a gun can blow somebody through a wall with a hole this big. Yes, that can happen. A lot of people survive gunshot wounds. Not so many people survive knife attacks. In fact, there's something called the Tuller drill. I think it's the Tully or Tuller drill, the 21-foot rule, where if you give somebody with a knife and somebody with a gun, the gun is holstered, either open or even concealed, and you tell the person with the knife to just sprint towards the person with the gun, the knife wins most times. Because by the time somebody unholsters and gets that gun, I'm going to use my beautiful SIRT gun here tonight. So I'll bring myself back up. That's right. I have a SIRT gun. That's how awesome I am. By the time somebody unholsters and presents your firearm, it actually takes more time than just swinging wildly with a knife. So knife attacks are actually more deadly than gun shots. So it's hysterical that people, of course, you could look at the UK and see the knife crime that happens in the UK. And yet they're like, no guns here, we're safe. Well, what about knives? And people almost laugh at you when you say, well, what about knives? Because they go, what are you talking about? Knives are nothing. Everybody has knives. I have knives. I have 15 knives. Okay. Well, knives are pretty daggone deadly, and they're silent. So there's something to talk about in that. So you have this armed vet who right here, this hero, and I will call him a hero right here. This is your vet that stopped the attack, and this is your assailant. So on Sunday, police identified 42-year-old man was charged with stabbing 11 people in a Michigan Walmart after the subject was subdued by an armed Marine veteran named Derek Perry. Derek Perry, you are a hero, and we thank you for stepping up. Now, I also talk about my LTC courses that you are under no duty to step in and stop a crime. Right? You're under no obligation to stop crimes or step in for crimes. I tell people that all the time. I tell people that you're going to develop a line which is based on your morality, your teaching, and your upbringing. And that's going to be the deciding factor in whether you get involved in something like this or not. So the idea is that Derek Perry stepped up. I don't know what the laws in Michigan are, but here in Texas, I tell people, hey, you're going to have to decide whether you're going to step in or not. And it's a tough decision to make because there's a lot of things that happen that you're going to have to be responsible for. But anyway, the incident occurred Saturday afternoon, and 4 of the victims are in serious condition after the incident. 42-year-old, of course, then when they're 5,000. Anyway, Bradford James Guile was arrested following counts of assault with intent to murder, and authorities are also seeking terrorism charges. So, and the thing is, like, Derek's getting a lot of nonsense for his grip. This thing right here, I don't know if you can see it that well. Everybody's like, oh, his grip is terrible. I think he's getting a little bit too much junk and nonsense on that for this reason. He could have been changing hands, readjusting his grip. It's just the picture. I'm not gonna judge him based on his grip at the moment, because he could be changing hands, he could be readjusting. The way he's pointing it is fine. So I'm not too worried about that. But Derek Perry here is an example, right? He's an example of what happens when you decide, listen, people are getting hurt and I'm going to step up and I'm going to do something about it. And it's not a white thing. It's not a black thing. It's a mentality thing. Derek Perry obviously cares about his community and he saw people in danger. Now he's served in the military, so maybe that was imprinted on him to begin with. Just and real quick, just because you're in the military doesn't mean like you're Jack Bauer. There are plenty of people. I have a good buddy of mine. He says he's a Marine. He calls himself a paper pusher. So it is what it is. So either way, it doesn't matter what Daniel Perry did. He still signed up for it, and he's still the guy that stepped up to defend people when they needed defending. Because here's the thing, nobody else did. Nobody else did. So good on him. That happened over the weekend. This continues the theme. You're on your own. You need to operate. There's Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper's stages of awareness, the color code stages of awareness, from white to yellow to orange to red to black. And a lot of people nowadays are operating in condition white. They're on their phone, they're oblivious, they're in their own little world. So there's this thing that you need to be aware of what's going on around you. You need to put the phone down. You need to keep your senses about you. And a lot of people just don't. They don't have that sense. And men in particular do not have this sense about them. They're kind of just off in their own little world. And when something happens, they go from white to red, which is imminent danger, you must react. And in some cases, a lot of people freeze. And in the color coding, they go from white straight to black. Panic sets in, blackouts, all kinds of things. And so it's really dangerous to not take your own safety seriously, to not be accountable for your own safety. And a lot of people don't want to do it. And a lot of people think it's silly to even think that way. Yeah, of course, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper's color, I think they based the terrorism system off of Colonel Cooper. He was there first. You know, the yellow, the stupid terrorism system. That was fantastic. That was hysterical. Today is a yellow day. Sorry, hold on. And today is a yellow day. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean a yellow day? It's stupid. But if you look at it, a lot of people actually think and talk about well, I talk about the system just to give people an idea of that. So good for him. What am I thinking about? Body armor. Let's see. I'm trying to answer a question in real time here. Let's see here. There's a bunch of body armor companies out there. This is just the first one. There's a company that I use that I've completely forgot about, but somebody asked about it, so I will show you. You just type in body armor, give you idea. This is Premier Body Armor. I don't know who they are, but I'm going to give you an idea of like combos, right? This is an level 3+ loadout. You know, they do pretty good deals. You're talking about plates front to back. You have the whole kit. Level 3+ is pretty good because that's what is level 3 is rifle protection. Because level 2 is pistol. Level 2+ goes up to like 44 mag, I believe. And then level 3 and 3+ steel plates. So you can type them in. These guys are having a sale, but there's tons of body armor companies out there. Some people recommend certains. Some people will recommend other ones too. Dean's also put nationalbodyarmor.com in there as well. So you can look at different loadouts, different things. I have 3, I think, and I always take advantage of sales because, you know, I am who I am in that regard. But it's a pretty good idea to have some kind of body armor system ready to go if you need it. I would recommend that. So let's see here. Yeah, I know I'm pretty dark. I'm still trying to work on my lighting, guys. I know it looks like I'm broadcasting from the back cave, but it's either you can't see me and you see the board, or you see me and you can't see the board. It's one or the other. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next story of the night. We're going to change it a little bit here. We're going to talk about this story from Ground News. And this came out over the weekend. And I'm telling you guys that we are moving closer and closer to white ethnostates. YouTube, I am not recommending this. I am not in favor of this. I'm just saying this is what's happening. And people are starting to get tired, especially white people who are whiter people, lighter people. White people are getting a little tired of not race, but being put down and being told they have to conform to things that they don't want to conform to. And they're being told, listen, you can't have a culture. You can't have a history. All of your history is, cultural appropriation from other cultures. You have no culture. You have no history. And we've been browbeaten time after time. These things are going to sprout up. And there's going to be a time, because most people in politics, most governors are all old. Most governors are boomers. You're going to get a younger governor that comes in that agrees with people, whether this is a good thing or not, that, yeah, I think we should preserve aspects of European culture. They'll call it something like that. And of course, anytime one particular race, which is white people, try to protect their own culture and history, they're made to be evil. Here's an example.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
Over the last year and a half, high up in the Ozark Hills in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been...
First of all, they went to a place that nobody wants to live in. I personally think the Ozark Mountains are beautiful, but they're not taking over a city block. They're not going into, they are removing themselves. And they're saying, we just want to have this community. They kind of want to be like the Amish. We just want to have our own community. We want to operate according to our own laws and our own values. We're not imposing on anybody else. We just want to live the way we want to live. And guess what? This isn't the first time something like this has happened. I'll talk about that in a moment.
Working hard, leveling the land, building houses. They call it an intentional community based around shared ancestry, a long-winded way of saying something really quite simple.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
A seemingly bucolic and sometimes surreal experience. But this is built on a radical modern premise, made possible because of a new political and technological moment.
All right, I got to step in. I got to step in real quick here. This is not radical or anything of the way. You know why? Because it was celebrated back in 2024 when Freedom, Georgia, an all-black community was set up, and everybody said, yeah, that's right. Let's do it. Let's have an all-black community. Nobody said it was racist. Nobody said it was extreme. Nobody said it was dangerous. It was celebrated. So if these people in Arkansas are upset about this, I would be too. Because and this would be the first piece of evidence I would bring to the Attorney General of Arkansas. I'd slap that down and say, where were you guys? Where was anybody in 2024 when this happened? Why is one group, and this is where the fatigue comes, why is one group allowed this freedom of association, and why is another group not allowed this freedom of association? That's all it is. Why is one group allowed it and one group not? That's the frustration people have. These people bought something out outside of Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and they're going to be the new Black Wall Street of the New South. And you know what everybody said? Okay, cool, whatever. Good for you guys. I hope it works. That's what most people said. But these people want to do it? Oh,
what we've done here is
racist.
establish a place where we have control
terrible. These
over
are awful people. Can you believe this? And this is the thinking, as I'm letting it play, this is the thinking that is going to lead, and I don't want this to happen, but this is the thinking that will lead to white ethno-states. It's going to happen. They are pushing for it. They are pushing for it. They are pushing these people into these positions. But I had to say that as this moron Brit, I think he's from TMZ, it's a dangerous ideology. Was it dangerous with another group? Was it dangerous when we saw the Islamic cities being built? Nobody, I mean, we were like, yeah, that's kind of weird, but no attorney, Ken Paxton eventually stepped in and started looking at it, but nobody said anything.
A long-winded way of saying something really quite simple.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
A seemingly bucolic and sometimes surreal experience. But this is built on a radical modern premise, made possible because of a new political and technological moment. One with strong ties to the most active far-right groups in the US.
Yeah, that's feds. We all know that, right? We all know that was Fed ops, but cool, thanks, keep going.
Instead of taking to the streets, they are building their own, for generations to come.
It's important for me to do this for my ancestors, my friends, my family, my children, my children's children.
But in this southern US state, people who have lived through segregation once fear it is returning.
When you hear things like that, it causes you to be...
What? Sorry, earmuffs if you have kids. What the hell does a bunch of people who move up into the mountains of Arkansas have to do with this lady? They are self-moving out of the place. Like, white people can't catch a break in this regard. If they leave, you're racist. If they come in and gentrify, you're racist. If they do anything but submit to the liberal progression, they're racist. What in the great hell do you have, lady? What does this affect you? How does this affect you if they leave? If you look at younger generations of black students, they want segregated dorms. They want segregation. You had an example of segregation when a group in Georgia, a group of black people bought land and said it's going to be a black-only community. Good. Let them have it. Why is this lady upset about it?
fearful. And you don't know who to trust.
They're not dragging you there. They're not like, we're building this town and we need some black people to build it. They're like, let us go there. Let us build this stuff. Let us have this community. This lady's afraid they're going to come into town.
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
Of course, who's saying that? Yeah, you can't, you do not hate journalists enough. You do not hate journalists enough. Joey with the right? It's the thing in American colleges. There's been articles about how black students want separate graduations for blacks. The shackles, really. And of course, this guy's like, it's an a fortress for the white race. It's a bunch of people with goats.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
White only. It's going to lead to one state's going to elect a guy who's like, I will protect your heritage. Rick Barrett is not in favor of this. Rick Barrett is a part of the Universal Catholic Church, which I'm repeating myself. I don't care who you are. If you are a Catholic, even a Christian, we have everything in common. Like, you know, the good Christians. Sorry, like the Christians with the lady pastors, we don't have anything in common. But it doesn't matter. And when you have an absence of God, this is what happens. Politics have taken over, and that's what we're seeing rise up. But the fact is, these guys don't want any kind of racism. And guess what? This is happening in places like South Africa. There are towns of Afrikaners. And it's going to take place. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that they can't even do it without being called racist. And guess what? That reporter, by doing that, is just reinforcing why they wanted to leave in the first place. I'll put this back up. This was celebrated not even a year ago. And now you have a bunch of people that are like, listen, we would like to just live up here with people who share our values, because guess what? Cities don't have shared values. Suburbs don't have shared values. People long for shared values, which is why the Catholic Church is the foundation of Western civilization. Right? It's true. The reason why the Catholic Church is the foundation of civilization is because it doesn't matter your race. If we all believe in the one true faith, there is none. We can't be racist as Catholics. Right? If a bunch of Nigerian Catholics moved in next door, I'm not freaking out. You know why? Because we share the same values. If some Indian Catholics move in, guess what? We share the same values. I'm going to be kneeling in the pew next to you guys. But when you have a society that has no God but politics, this is the result. That's why the only way forward is the church. The only way forward is Catholicism. That's it. Even Protestantism, which, you know, prods get very angry. And, you know, I love my evangelical brothers and sisters. You guys do the best you can, just like we do. But even they fumble the bag as well. So it's absolutely mind-boggling. And it really grind my gears when I saw that, because it's just, listen, it was celebrated. It was appreciated. Now it's racist. Now it's bad. It's bad, okay? Okay, whatever. So that's my thoughts on that. It's going to move us towards, and I think social media, and I think the elites want it. Let me know if you agree. I think the elites want some kind of race war. That I think they want that, because if we're all at each other's throats, that gives them an excuse to absorb more power. They want a society that doesn't have God. They want a society with black people and white people have each other at each other's throats. Yeah, I mean, you can call yourself Catholic. We could weed that out pretty quick. We could weed them out pretty quick. So that is a good point. There are people that claim it. So it is what it is in that regard. Pink camo. That sin is on them for lying and for practicing voodoo. So they got a bunch of stuff stacked up already. They got a bunch of things they're stacked up for already. And that's the thing people are getting kind of tired of. All right, let's move on, because I don't want to keep ranting about this. I want to respect your all's time. Next story of the night. It is a story that I, as a gun guy, I like to talk about, but it's also a story of a company that has just absolutely face planted and drop the ball. And if you know anything about SIG, that's kind of a double-edged sword there. So This happened over the weekend. Airman was killed by an M18 handgun, which is the military version of the P320. The whole thing with the M17 and the M18 has been really a lesson in greed, and a lesson in hubris of a company. So, real quick backstory for those of you that aren't up to speed: the military gives out a contract for a sidearm, right? Wow, I'm breaking ground here. For a long time, the Beretta M9, commonly known as the Beretta 92 FS, whatever you want to call it, had been issued, I think, since the 60s, and had a really good track record. Now, of course, people were like, oh, the Beretta M9 is trash. Well, that's because the Beretta M9 has been used for everything as a hammer to all kinds of stuff. So the Army put out a contract, I think in early 2010s, 2011, 2015. And SIG, Glock, and Beretta were the main competitors for this. People can talk about the testing. There are videos that go through the testing. Who did it? Somebody, I think Mr. Guns and Gear, somebody did a really good video. Oh, no, it was a guy from TFB. I think it's Jeremy from TFB TV, went through the whole thing about SIG and how, they go through these testing processes. And SIG won the contract. Military contracts are huge for gun companies because it's guaranteed income. Beretta, and all these companies, there's two reasons why gun companies want military contracts. A, it's guaranteed income. B, once a company gets the military contract, they can brag to the civilian market, and then you'll see an uptick in the civilian versions of that gun. Right? The military trusts the SIG and the P320. You should too. My different microphones. So the M17 is the approval, and things go weird right off the bat because the P320 has a history of kind of going off before you pull the trigger. There were drop testing issues. There were a lot of things that were problems with the SIG P320. It happens. The issue is SIG, as Joey is saying in the comments, never took accountability for their actions. In fact, before this event took place, before this 21-year-old Kentucky native died, and we're going to talk about that, SIG had come out on March 7th of this year with multiple posts talking about how the P320 was targeted by gun groups, and it is a reliable gun. And this was the phrase that just talk about a death nail. Let me see if I can go back to it. So this was, you sure about that? SIG doubled down to the point where it cannot fire. They said it cannot fire. Let's see. It ends today. And it was really bad. It was a really, really bad statement that they made here. They even said anybody that says that the SIG P320 can fire without pulling the trigger is lying. I guess they scrubbed it of that first one. But it was double, triple down. In fact, to the point, SIG was taking people to court because they said, listen, the one in 2017. Okay. I'm glad Joey's here. He's going to help me clean up the timeline. So they won the contract in 2017. So that's when it was. SIG had been taking people to court for the civilian version, which is the P320, saying, listen, you can't say that this gun doesn't shoot unless, you have to pull the trigger. You're defaming our name, our gun, and, all of these other things. Terrible, terrible idea. Whoever thought it was a good idea to sue and take these people to court, real bad. Real bad. And so I guess I should have looked for this before the show, shouldn't I? Can I get it here? Oh, here it is. The SIG P320. All right. Whatever. They came out and they said you cannot shoot this gun without pulling the trigger. And they went after people in the comments section. And they went all these other things, despite the fact that they were sued time after time. This is 2025, March 31st. 22. No, I don't want your scooter. 22 more people sued them saying the gun fired unintentionally. To the point, we talked about it on the show, SIG begged the state of New Hampshire for state protections, which the state of New Hampshire granted, which I'm sure the state of New Hampshire is not very happy with right now because they were like, ooh, this is not a great idea. It really came to a head here. So what happened, tragically, is this airman took his gun off, and his gun was in his holster. Most people will agree that a holstered gun is rendered safe. You can't pull the trigger because you can't pull the trigger, and it shouldn't go off if it bangs into something. Now, there's a guy from the Wyoming Gun Club. He's got a video out there. It's got probably 1 million plus views. He's able to get a P320 to fire 5 times in a row unintentionally just by working the slide. And that's, if you ever handled a firearm, you know, even in a holster, sometimes you bump into something or it just moves around. The slide moves. It doesn't stay in there. Even with guns that have retention, they move. There's a little bit of give and play. So this airman puts the gun on a table, and the gun goes off, hits him in the chest, and kills him. Just kills him. Right there, dead. And that's when everybody went, okay, this isn't great. To the point where the strike command for the Air Force stopped and said, we can no longer use the P320. We can't. We cannot use the M17, right? We cannot use the SIG P320 or the M17 anymore. Air Force M17. And that's huge. That's huge because this could be the end of the SIG contract with the Air Force. I don't know if anybody, here it is. SIG M18, which is the smaller version. The M17 is the full size. The M18 is the compact. Pulled by Air Force Global Strike. Yeah, who you use to advertise your product doesn't want to use your firearm anymore. In fact, any major gun tuber is saying, I will never. Yeah, this is here. I don't know. Let me see if I can actually find a video of the P320 because you have to see it to believe it. So the SIG is pulled, and let's see here. We'll play it. We won't use the audio, but we'll play the video. So this guy from the Wyoming Gun Club has this. He did this experiment, and what he did is he put a screw in to give a little bit of pressure to the trigger to show that the trigger's not moving. Watch the wiggle room on this gun. Watch the wiggle room on this gun. This is unacceptable. Finger is not on the trigger here, guys. The finger is not on the trigger. That's 3 in a row he did. Same thing. Trigger's secure. Everything's fine. He's going to rechamber another round. He's done it 3 times. Watch the way that firearm goes off. He's showing that the safety is actually locked and in action. So now he's going to put a mag in, and he's going to show you the wiggle room on this firearm. So the SIG Sauer knew that the P320 was bad. The FBI had reports of random discharges for years. The military was forced to swap out, and now a service member has died from this POS gun. Watch the wiggle room in this slide. He's going to do it again. He's going to mess around with the front. Remember, he's not touching the trigger. This amount of wiggle room he's going to do, you will have in a holster. Folks, that is not acceptable. And that's the gun that supposedly won the contract. So this fatal incident prompted the order to pause the M18 use, which also comes after the disclosure of a concerning FBI report that SIG has pushed back on. This is absolutely damaging to this company, as it should be. As it should be. SIG put profits, and I know I'm going to sound like a communist here, but as a gun guy, I have to say it like this. SIG put the profits of its company over the safety of the people they sold the firearm to. That is unexcusable. That is an unforgivable sin. Gun companies have been canceled for less. Now, SIG has a huge following. There's a term for them that I won't use here because I don't want to get in trouble. But there's a term that, for people who are devoted to SIG. Now, people are devoted to Glock. People are devoted to. I'm a Ruger guy. Say whatever you will. So every gun company has its fan base, but the people who love SIG love SIG. That's the Browning action. Every gun, the Browning action, that's why it's crooked, because it's locked to the rear. So that's what that's why it looks like that, Bellator. If you actually cock your gun back and leave it in the slide like that, it's going to be like that. So that's why that's actually completely fine. That's the one thing that's actually okay with the gun. So what you're looking at is the demise of a company in real time. And it's absolutely warranted. And I've never had a problem with SIG. I thought their magazines and stuff were a little expensive, and but people who love SIG love SIG. This is terrifying for them. Terrifying. Why? Because now you have the Trace, which is an anti-gun outlet, coming after the gun community because of the alleged pistol defects. Alleged pistol defects that we now know the FBI knew about. The military had been known about. There's pictures online from police departments where guys are trying to wrestle a suspect down. The gun's in the holster. Gun goes off. And SIG came out time after time and said, you guys are lying. What does SIG do? Does SIG buy back? Now, SIG tried to get away with it with their voluntary upgrade program. And so that was they voluntarily were going to upgrade the trigger. So that was their first way to get around it. Then they did this. And listen, a manager at one of the gun ranges I worked at, the dude was a SIG dude. I think the P365 was a great advancement in concealed carry technology. It actually started the double stack micro compact. So good for SIG on that account. But this is almost an unforgivable sin. You put the people that buy your product, your people buy your gun because they trust that it will work. And if it goes off without it firing, that means it doesn't work. Your gun is faulty. So does the military go with Glock now? Because Glock was neck and neck with SIG. Do they go with the new M9 Beretta, which is a sweet looking gun, by the way? What are they going to do? Because if you're a service member, do you trust putting the M17 or the M18 on your hip? I wouldn't trust it. And so this tragedy is just another example of people who get way of greed, of hubris, and why Catholics, why pride is a sin, man. Why hubris and greed are sins, because you cut corners. Now, there's rumors that some of the parts that the M17 and the M18 are being outsourced to India. I don't know. I can't confirm if that's true as well. Boy, oh boy. Especially when you have Berettas are made in the USA. Glocks are made in the USA. Smith & Wesson, the M&P series, is a great gun. You know, they have a bunch of options. It's also interesting to note, and I'm sorry to get into the gun talk here, but, you know, I feel like doing it tonight. The SIG is the only one that doesn't have a blade trigger safety. And if you know guns, it's got that safety in the trigger system. The M17 and the M18 don't have that, which is an interesting thing. The Glock, now the Beretta has 400 safeties on it, so that's why they don't have it on theirs. But the Smith & Wesson and the Glock, they have those things. They have those things. But watching this in real time and watching SIG double and triple down on this and say there's nothing wrong is absolutely mind-numbing. Do these people not, does anybody in PR, you're better off admitting a mistake and working to correct it? Because now a guy's dead. Whoop, there goes that. Now a guy's dead. And you can't, and that, believe me, if SIG thought the 22 people that were suing them for the gun going off and all that was bad publicity, wait till the family of that 21-year-old Kentucky airman goes after SIG. That family is going to go after SIG, and they are going to win in any court on the planet. Yeah, Coach P, we talked about that at the top of the show. It's kind of the theme of tonight's show. You're on your own. And we're actually going to move that into, I'm glad you, because does anybody else have anything to say on the SIG stuff before we move on? The Smith & Wesson's a good gun. The Smith & Wesson is actually a really, really dependable gun. No, Bellator, I'll actually say that I think the Smith & Wesson may be underrated. It's actually not talked about enough, because right now people only talk about SIG and people only talk about Glock. Those are really the two leaders in the clubhouse, if you will. Then, of course, SIG won't be after this, but they were the two primary leaders in the clubhouse, if you will. Then you had Beretta and Smith & Wesson and Canik. I know I'm missing some. I know I'm missing a couple. Then, you know, Ruger's like, because people just don't like Ruger. I get it. They're considered tier C. But there's a bunch of, you know, companies that aren't. Lou carries the Smith & Wesson. She knows what's up. By the way, the Smith & Wesson Shield 9, great gun. Oh, AKs. H&K, great gun. A little pricey. I think H&K is a little pricey, but they're good guns. They run well. So, all right, we're good on that. Let's move on to our next subject here on RickCast. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to help the show grow. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. Talking about the theme, which while I'm moving around, let me give you the reason of our theme tonight, which is Supreme Court case DeShaney v. Winnebago. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate you stopping in, and thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for helping me on the timeline with the SIG. Joey served in the Navy, so he knows what's up with the whole contract and all that stuff. Because there's all the thing is too with this, everybody's running around with the rumors. So DeShaney v. Winnebago, you are on your own. You are on your own. And that brings us to the tragedy that took place in Cincinnati. So let's get rid of you. Let's get rid of you. Let's get rid of you. So 5 charged in connection with a violent downtown brawl that went viral. So 5 people have been charged in connection with a violent brawl that took place at the Cincinnati Jazz Festival, and it unfolded at the West 4th and Elm Street in downtown early Saturday. And this is the video that went viral, folks. YouTube, don't ban me. I'm just showing. Everybody else is showing this too. So people are saying, hey, they shouldn't have been there. Why are you even going to a jazz fest? Why are you doing all these things? Listen, people have the right to assemble. We're not going to play the whole thing. In fact, because you get the point. There was a mob. They went around them. They attacked them. Tragic. Awful. Well, here's your police chief. We got one problem already. I guess most of my audience, I don't have my misogyny alert on me, but we got our first issue with what may be wrong in the Cincinnati Police Department. It's a female chief. But anyway, let's move on. Here's what she had to say about it.
It has been several days since this incident happened. There's frankly been an information void.
So the reporter's asking, hey, why didn't we know about the names of the people that are doing this? So Joey, we talked about it at the top of the show. Has there been any updates on that with the shooting in New York? Is there, because we knew there was one person. New York shooting. Let's see. Top latest. One, oh wow. Okay. Let's break into that since we're here. So when we were there, when we started talking, there was one person injured. As of right now, the latest is police officer shot and killed, was targeted. This was a targeted attack. Oh, that's awful. That is terrible. Once again, oh, wow. Shooter with, well, folks, this story is about to be memory hold. Hold on a second. There we go. This is the shooter for the New York mass shooting where one police officer is dead. And this guy is carrying a firearm that you can't have in New York City. And he seems to not be a white guy, which means this story is about to be memory hold in about 3, 2, 1. That's what's going to happen here. Hate to say it like that, but we all know how it goes. That's reportedly, this guy's also got a pretty kitted out AR, by the way, too. Suspect is confirmed dead. So we have a police officer that is dead, and we have the suspect is dead as well. Let's see here. Yeah. So that's the latest. You know, let's actually go to the Daily Mail and see what they have. Let's see what the Daily Mail has in regards to this. I don't care about Carmelo Anthony. Let's see. I don't care about any of that. News. Here we go. Shooter with assault rifle kills one police officer and leaves 6 others injured in a broad shooting in daylight. Guys, you are on your own. But we saw the makeup of the shooter. So it will not be talked about much. He had a suppressor on the firearm when he opened fire with approximately 30 people inside the lobby of the skyscraper of the Blackstone Asset Management building at 6:30 p.m. Suspect was later found dead from a self-inflicted shot on the 33rd floor. Officer Dizari Izam, who was working private security at the time, and if a civilian were shot in critical condition, online showed officers in protective gear entering. This is our gentleman. This is our suspect, who is now confirmed KIA. Yeah, you are not going to hear anything about this story. Tragic, folks. And it goes to my story that we're talking about with the Cincinnati, in Cincinnati, where you are on your own and you are left to your own devices. You're going to have to develop your own sense of what is wrong. You're going to have to develop a better intuition when it comes to these things. Your instincts are going to have to get honed. All of ours have to get, as we are seeing a rise in violence and a breakdown in social service and in society. So there are pre-threat or pre-attack indicators. So obviously a pre-threat indicator of a guy who walks into a building with an AR in New York, that's a pre-threat indicator. Unfortunately, in New York City, you don't have the ability to protect yourself. That guy looks Middle Eastern. I mean, I'm not a genius in any way, shape, or form, but that dude he is not white. That dude is definitely not white. Let's see how long it takes for the NYPD and the District Attorney of New York. Was that Letitia James? Let's see how long it takes Letitia James to give you details about the shooter, who is now not there. Yes, it was an ambush. It was an ambush. Guys, you have to develop your own spidey sense. Now, talking about this and talking about the situation in Cincinnati, this situation, your pre-threat indicator is a guy walks in with an AR. That's as simple as it gets. You got to exfil. You got to get out of that building as soon as possible, especially when you are in a place that doesn't allow you to defend yourself. How did no one see him entering the building? You're right. He is calm. He has no reason to fear, Coach P. He has no reason to fear because there is nobody that can stop him. Unlike our hero Daniel Perry at the beginning of our show in Michigan, an armed citizen who stepped up to protect other people, there's nobody in New York City that can help you outside of the police and maybe private security that has the required clearance. I don't know what the security in New York is or what the level is. Lou, you would be surprised at how many people are oblivious and operating condition white. Most people have their faces in their phones. Most people have earbuds on. Most people have their own version of tunnel vision where they don't look and they don't see things that are taking place until it's too late. So if you are in a situation like the Cincinnati Brawl, there are pre-threat indicators that you need to look for. You need to develop these things. And I'll drop this in the chat so you guys can look at this. This is the article I'm sourcing. You guys should take a look at this yourselves. The first one, aggressive posturing. Then you have intense staring. Then you have verbal threats. Then you have invasion of personal space, unpredictable behavior, the display of a weapon, which I guess we'll put that one onto the New York one. That is a pre-threat indicator. Hey, this guy's got an AR with a suppressor on it. That's not great. So that's another pre-threat indicator. Physical signs of agitation. Visible signs of agitation, nervousness, fidgeting, clenched jaw. Preparation movements. Suspicious movements suggesting preparation for an attack, reaching into pockets, adjusting clothing, adopting a fighting stance. Women, it's always funny. We always talk about women taking their earrings off. Yeah, that's a pre-threat indicator of that. Gang mentality, which is what happened to the people in Cincinnati. If you have a group, and this happens especially in cities where there is lack of law enforcement, aggressive posturing, verbal taunting, or an attempt to intimidate. These are increased signs that your situation is going downhill fast. Blocking exits. Deliberate actions to block or restrict your ability to leave an area. Flanking maneuvers, where they are surrounding you, which if you look at this video in Cincinnati, happened to that guy immediately. And it happens quick, folks. It was one guy, then all of a sudden, there was a group around him. Sudden changes in behavior, abrupt changes in behavior, becoming overly friendly, or in attempting to lure you into a secluded area. Targeted assessment, sizing you up, aggressive gestures, facial expressions. These are all pre-threat indicators. You have to, the repeating of words. Yes, correct. The repeating of words. As the kids say, bowing up, getting tense, clenching of fists. Some people will start getting loud. Some people will get dead silent and they'll just stare at you. You have to be aware that your life, not your life, but you are about to get into some kind of threat, some kind of attack. Now, this guy, he just has a weapon and he's just walking through the streets of New York. And nobody sees it. Nobody cares about it. Everybody just goes about their day. Because people also have something, they have a normalcy bias as well. And the normalcy bias is that can't be a real gun. Or maybe it's a fake gun. Maybe he's doing something. People will rationalize themselves out of their instinct to get out of a situation. This can't happen to me. It won't happen to me. And I try to tell people in my LTC classes when I teach them, guys, you are in danger. You need to recognize your instincts and you need to get out. And unfortunately, the police chief didn't have any police in or at the Cincinnati Jazz Festival. Because remember, the police are they're not designed to protect you. They're not designated or assigned to protect you. They don't have to. So I dropped it in the chat. Check out those pre-attack indicators. They call them pre-threat indicators. These are things that they will commute to you that you are in a dangerous situation and you need to get out of that situation. You know, yeah, you can carry a gun. I mean, not in New York, but even in a crowd situation, a gun is not going to help you. If you're in a crowd and you display a firearm, now you're even more of a target because now you have something they want. So you need to be aware of crowds and how crowds react, especially if they're getting hostile. And in the case of the gentleman in New York, if you're in one of those buildings and if you're on the floor that he walks into, don't second guess it. I don't care if the guy's I'm going to fire you if you leave your desk. I'm getting the blank out of here, homie. Oh, is that? Let's see. I wouldn't be shocked if he had body armor on under here. Of course, we need to know about this guy. We don't know anything about him. The woman had a cut on her head, and the man allegedly said, "Free Palestine. I'm not an active shooter." Okay. I guess it was a targeted attack, which is what is being reported. So it looks like he was targeting the security guard, as we know right now. All right. Button down shirt, carrying a large rifle. He had a suppressor on it. Okay. Yeah, well, he had a reason to be there because he cowardly took his way out. The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker is a good read for these times. Check it out. There's a bunch of books on that stuff. There's the Mindset of Violence book. There's a bunch of books you can read up on that will help you out in these situations. So, folks, you are on your own, and you need to recognize that as society continues to break down, and I'm not saying this to scare you, it is a reality check. as society is breaking down, your safety is up to you and only you. All right. We're going to close the show out on a bit of a different note. We've been talking about this the whole time. Yeah, if you have any questions about this stuff, if you'd like, you can always email me, info@thearmedcatholic.com. You can reach out to me on X. You can reach out to me where you'd like, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about this. And I'll say it one more time. If you are interested in getting a firearm, because this is how everybody will say, go get a gun. Go get a gun. Yeah, sure. I think you should, if you're in a state that allows you to get a gun and carry, you should. More importantly, you should get training. You should find a range and an instructor that you trust. You have to. Because buying a gun is not enough. You must buy a gun and you must know how to use that firearm. And you need to know the situations and the outcomes. If you are having trouble locating an instructor, email me. I can look those things up for you. If you want to go so far and bring me out and teach a class to you guys, I'm certified across these United States as a USCCA instructor, defensive handgun, concealed carry tactics, mass shooting tactics, and so forth. Countering the mass shooter. That's the name of the course. So you can reach out to me as well. And if you can't find somebody, let me know. I'll help you find somebody. All right, let's end the show on a completely different note. Let's talk about some box office here. Let's end the show on a box office note. Fantastic Four goes with 118 domestic debut. Now, that's fine. That's right. What they say, 118 to 125 is, so it came in right on that bottom area, which is fine. It came in with an A- cinema score. That's okay with legs. As far as its weekend gross, did 57 million, which is not really 57 million because they counted the 24 million in previews on Thursday night into the Friday. 57 million, 33-27. You could see it was dropping already pretty badly from Friday to Sunday, but it came in at 118. Okay. It's got positive word of mouth behind it. That's fine as well. But the idea that this movie's going to have legs, nobody's really going to know how this does until next week. Because all of these movies, Superman, Jurassic World, Fantastic Four, they're all front loaded. The people who really want to see them will go out and see them the first weekend. They will absolutely go do it. It's the second weekend and that drop and hold, which is going to be really the tell. How can I tell you this? Superman's been out for three weeks and it's still holding under 60%, which is massive. And looks like Superman's probably going to hit 550, maybe even 600 by next weekend because its weekday totals are actually pretty good. I don't think Fantastic Four will keep up. I think it's actually going to have it'll probably drop 60%. It'll probably drop 60% in its second weekend. Let's see. Marvel actually made not a terrible movie. I don't. You can watch my review on RickCast reviews. I'm indifferent to it, which is the worst rating you can get, because people are speaking really positive about this movie, and I don't know why. I guess they just really want this movie to do well. That's fine. If you want the movie to do well, I don't care. I just don't think it's worthy as much praise as it's getting. But we'll see. Right now, it's doing okay. As far as other movies in the top, I don't think it's going to overtake Superman. I think from this fact, it opened up lower, and we won't know its legs until next weekend. If it comes in under 60%, I think it has a chance to maybe hit 500. I don't think it goes higher than that. But when you look at Jurassic World, that one's actually almost at 800 million. That's probably going to catch out at 800 million like we talked about. F1, that's at 500 million, 509, which is the most any original film is made this summer. So that's pretty good for them. That's really good for F1. They can keep it through the month of August. It'll probably tap out at 550, right? This probably has another 25 million left in it for the month of August, which would be fine. And then we'll see how that goes as far as that is. As I already said, Jurassic World's probably going to top out at 800. Superman's probably going to flirt with 600, and I think Fantastic Four comes in with about 500 million. But we'll see. We won't know anything about this until we actually see the second week with Fantastic Four. It's got decent reviews. Most people generally like it. I don't know why, but film is subjective. And we'll wait for that second weekend hold to see if it really does land the plane, if you will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of went quick on the movie stuff because we're almost 2 hours in. We went a little long tonight, and that's fine. Glad to be hanging out with you guys. So that's it for this episode of RickCast. Please do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button on your way out. To everybody that's joining us for the first time, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. I will see you all tomorrow here on RickCast Reviews. God bless, ladies and gentlemen. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.